Welcome to AI Book Highlights.
Great to be here.
Ever wonder why some stories just stick with you? Why they pop up again and again across different cultures, different times?
Absolutely. It's something fundamental, isn't it?
Well, today we're getting into Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces. This book really tackles that question.
It does. It's all about the hidden patterns in mythology, the universal stories that seem to resonate deep within us.
Exactly. And it's not just old myths. You see these patterns everywhere.
So think of this session as kind of a guide to some of Campbell's biggest ideas. We've pulled out 5 key highlights we think are really core to the book.
And importantly, we want to give you 3 actionable takeaways, things you can actually use to maybe understand your own life a bit better through this lens.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Let's start with the big one, the monomyth, or, what most people call the hero's journey.
Ah, yes, the foundational concept.
Yeah.
Campbell basically argued that if you look closely at myths and legends from all over the world, you find this surprisingly consistent structure, a kind of blueprint for adventure.
Okay, so break that down a bit. What does the structure look like?
Well, Campbell outlines it in 3 main acts, sort of. First, there's departure.
Departure.
This is where the hero gets the call to adventure.
Yeah.
Maybe they hesitate at first, the refusal of the call.
Happens all the time in stories.
Right. Then they often get some kind of help, supernatural aid, maybe a mentor figure.
Like Obi-Wan Kenobi or Gandalf.
Exactly like that. And then comes the big step, crossing the first threshold, leaving the familiar world behind.
Into the unknown. Campbell also has that striking phrase, the belly of the whale, right? That feeling of being totally consumed by the new situation.
Precisely, a point of no return, often. That's departure. Then comes the second act, initiation.
This sounds like where the main action happens.
It is. This is the core of the adventure. The hero faces a series of challenges, the road of trials.
Obstacles, tests.
Yeah. Along the way, they might have significant encounters. Campbell talks about the meeting with the goddess or confronting temptation woman as temptress is one archetype he discusses.
And often a confrontation with a powerful, maybe father-like figure, the atonement with the father.
Yes, that's a huge one. It's about reconciliation with that authority figure, or maybe what that figure represents. Ultimately, through these trials, the hero achieves some kind of transformation, apotheosis, or gains the prize, the ultimate boon.
The goal of the quest.
The goal, yeah. And finally, the third act, the return.
Coming home. But it's not always simple, is it?
Not at all. Sometimes the hero doesn't want return, the refusal of the return. The ordinary world might seem dull after the adventure.
Or maybe bringing the boon back is difficult.
Exactly. There might be a magic flight needing rescue from without. Eventually, though, the hero has to cross the return threshold back into the everyday world.
But they're changed.
Fundamentally changed. Ideally, they become the master of the 2 worlds, comfortable in both the ordinary and the extraordinary, and achieve the freedom to live.
What I find really compelling is that Campbell says this structure holds true whether it's a physical adventure, like in fairy tales or action stories.
Right, slaying dragons, finding treasure.
Or if it's more of an inner psychological or spiritual journey like you find in religious traditions, the stages, the character roles, they mirror each other.
It's quite profound. And it's important to remember, not every story ticks every single box perfectly.
Right. It's a template, not a rigid formula.
Exactly. If elements are missing, Campbell suggests it's usually a variation, emphasizing certain aspects, but the underlying pattern is often still there. It's the consistency of the overall framework that's so striking.
Okay, so that's the monomyth structure. Let's shift a bit. Highlight 2. The role of myth and dream. How does Campbell connect these?
Ah, this is fascinating. He has this beautiful idea that myth is like a secret opening.
A secret open?
Yeah, through which the kind of boundless energies of the cosmos flow into human culture. It's how the universal connects with the specific human world.
Wow. Okay. And dreams, how do they fit in?
Well, he draws this really neat parallel. He says dreams like a personalized myth.
Okay.
The symbols, the stories in your dreams, they relate directly to your own life, your own psychology, your troubles, your desires.
Makes sense. Dreams feel very specific to us.
Right. But myth, Campbell argues, is like a depersonalized dream. The symbols and stories and myths aren't just about one person's issues.
They're universal.
They have a general validity. They speak to problems and solutions relevant to all humankind across time and culture. Both myth and dream are symbolic expressions of the psyche's dynamics.
So my weird dream about flying might be my myth, but the story of Icarus is our myth.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And Campbell mentions Nietzsche's idea, too, that dreams can actually connect us to um, older ways of thinking, earlier states of human culture. They offer a window into understanding those foundational myths better.
So these myths and the archetypes within them, they're not just stories.
Not at all. Campbell believed that discovering and, crucially, assimilating these archetypes, these fundamental patterns of experience, is what has inspired, well, pretty much the core imagery of ritual, mythology, art, and religion throughout history. They are the building blocks of culture, in a way.
Right. Which leads us nicely into some specific archetypes. Let's talk about the meeting with the goddess. What does this represent in the journey?
This is a really rich one. In the symbolic language, Campbell deciphers woman or the goddess archetype. Often represents the totality of what can be known, the ultimate mystery, maybe.
The sum of all things.
In a sense, yes. And the hero's journey is partly about coming to know this. She embodies the world, both its blessings and its terrors.
And her form isn't static, you said?
No, that's key. How the hero perceives the goddess, the form she takes for him, changes as he matures, as he goes through life's initiations. She might appear alluring, guiding.
Nurturing, perhaps.
Yes, but also potentially overwhelming. She often promises more than the hero can initially grasp. There's a depth there.
And Campbell highlights her duality, right? She's not always benevolent.
Definitely not. She can be the source of comfort, but also the source of challenge or even danger. He mentions that Irish story, remember? The sons of King Eochaid.
Oh, right. They meet a hideous hag guarding a well.
Exactly. A really challenging, almost repulsive form of the feminine archetype initially. Most of the sons are put off. They refuse her demands.
It represents that difficult encounter with the unknown, or maybe the less desirable aspects of life or knowledge.
I think so. And Campbell's point is that the hero who can see beyond the immediate appearance, who can accept the goddess as she is, hag, or beauty, with kindness, with courage.
That's the true hero.
That's the one with the potential to be the king, the ruler, the integrated individual who understands and embraces the totality of the world she represents. It's about accepting the whole picture.
Okay, so from the goddess, let's move to another major archetype, the father. And this idea of atonement with the father. What's that about?
Well, again, it's usually not about your literal dad, though it can be related. It's more about confronting and reconciling with the figure who represents law, order, the established world.
The authority principle.
Yeah, or maybe even the limits of the known world. And crucially, this figure often appears initially as frightening, restrictive. Campbell uses the term ogre.
An ogre. Why?
Because that initial perception can be one of fear, judgment, power that seems crushing. He points to some of Jonathan Edwards' sermons, The Puritan Preacher.
Oh, the sinner's in the hands of an angry God guy.
That's the one. That intense imagery of God's wrath. That's Campbell's example of the ogre aspect. It's that overwhelming, potentially terrifying face of ultimate authority or reality.
But atonement means reconciliation, not just fear.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond that initial fear or rebellion. Campbell also talks about the other side, God's grace, as the food of the soul, sustenance, or even the raw energy, like a lightning bolt, as just released divine power, not necessarily punitive.
So it's seeing beyond the scary mask to the source itself.
Precisely. It's about understanding the source of the power of the Father, not just as a judge or obstacle, but as the source of life itself. He uses the symbol of the world navel.
The world navel.
Yeah, this mythological center point, the axis mundi, where eternity breaks into time. The source of continuous creation. It links the transcendent Father principle to the world.
Okay, I think I get it. It's about integrating that power.
In seeing the balance, think of the image of Shiva, the Hindu god. He's often shown adorned with symbols of destruction, like a skull, but also symbols of creation and peace, like the crescent moon.
Ah, embodying both aspects, the reconciliation of opposites.
That's the atonement. Understanding that the ultimate power encompasses both creation and destruction, order and chaos, mercy and judgment. The hero has to understand and accept this totality.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, final highlight, departure and return. We touched on this with the structure, but let's focus on the dynamic. The hero leaves, has the adventure, but the coming back is critical.
It absolutely is. The departure sets things in motion, but the return completes the cycle and brings the benefit back. And the departure itself can go wrong.
How so?
Well, Campbell gives the example of Jemshid, the Persian emperor. He had a golden age, everything went well, but then pride took over, hubris.
Ah, so he kind of misused his boon,
Mhm.
lost perspective.
Exactly. His successful departure led to arrogance and ultimately his downfall, a cautionary tale about handling power or success,
So the journey isn't just about getting the prize, it's about what you do with it.
and about the transformation itself.
Mm.
Often the initiation phase involves a symbolic death and rebirth.
Like going into the underworld or having a near-death experience or just a profound psychological shift.
Yes, some kind of fundamental change. And the point of the return is to bring back the fruits of that transformation. The lesson learned, the elixir, life renewed.
The Buddha is a great example, isn't he? He achieves enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, his transformation.
His symbolic death to his old self and rebirth into enlightenment.
And then he returns to teach, to share that understanding with the world. That's the successful return.
Perfectly put. Campbell emphasizes that the hero returns transfigured. They aren't the same person. They've battled past their own ego, their personal limitations.
And connected with something bigger.
Yes, with generally valid, normally human forms, as he puts it. They bring back wisdom that benefits the community, not just themselves. The return completes the circle.
Okay, those are 5 really powerful highlights from the book. Now let's make this practical. How can someone listening use these ideas? Takeaway number 1.
Right. First, just start recognizing the monomyth pattern in your own life. Think
Mhm.
about your own challenges, big or small.
Like a job change, moving to a new city, starting a difficult project.
Absolutely. Or even internal struggles. Can you identify moments that felt like a call to adventure? Times you maybe resisted, changed the refusal?
Yeah, definitely.
Who or what was your supernatural aid? What thresholds did you cross? What were your trials?
Thinking about it like that, it puts things in a different perspective.
Doesn't it? And consider where you are now. Maybe you're in the midst of initiation. What might the return look like for you? What wisdom could you bring back?
So just seeing your life experiences through this framework can give them a sense of shape, meaning, context.
Exactly. It normalizes struggle as part of a larger, meaningful pattern. It connects your personal story to this universal human journey.
Okay, that's a great first takeaway. What's the second?
Explore your inner mythology. Remember how we talked about myth and dream?
Yeah, dream as personal myth.
So pay attention to that. Notice your recurring dreams, persistent daydreams, images or stories that pop into your head, even your creative impulses.
Like journaling about dreams, or noticing themes in the movies or books you're drawn to.
Both are great ways in. Look for the symbols, the figures, the narratives that keep showing up for you. What are the underlying stories your own psyche is telling?
It's like being an archaeologist of your own mind.
Kind of, yeah. Campbell suggests these personal myths offer clues, insights into your own motivations, your fears, your untapped potential. It's about listening to your own inner storyteller.
I like that. Okay, actionable takeaway number 3.
Embrace the duality of archetypes. We talked about the goddess and the father having these, seemingly opposite qualities, nurturing and terrifying, known and unknown.
Right. The hag and the beautiful maiden, the wrathful god, and the source of grace.
So the takeaway is to consider how these dualities play out in your life. How do you perceive authority figures or sources of knowledge or comfort?
Do I tend to see them as purely one thing, all good or all bad, helpful or hindering?
Exactly. Can you start to recognize the complexity? Can you see, for instance, how a challenge might also be an opportunity? How something comforting might also hold you back sometimes?
It's about moving beyond black and white thinking.
Precisely. Campbell's work suggests that real growth, real understanding, comes from integrating these opposing forces, holding the tension between them, rather than trying to simplify everything.
Accepting the complexity of life and the archetypes that represent it.
That's the core of it. It leads to a richer, more complete view of yourself and the world.
Wow. Okay, those are 3 really solid ways to engage with these ideas.
We just scratched the surface, really.
Oh, absolutely. These are just a handful of the really profound ideas in The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Campbell weaves together mythology, psychology, religion. It's an incredible tapestry.
It truly reveals the underlying unity in our diverse human stories. It shows how connected we are through these fundamental narratives.
We really can't recommend the book enough. If any of this resonated with you, definitely delve deeper. Find your own insights.
You'll find layers you didn't expect.
For sure. We'll put a link to purchase the book in the description below. It's worth the journey. Thank you so much for joining us on AI Book Highlights today. Hopefully this gives you some new ways to think about the stories that shape our lives.
Thanks for listening.